and welcome to Encouraging Leadership, conversations that mobilize today's women leaders, with your host, Ann Miner. Meet leaders who share their observations, knowledge, insight, and perspectives to mobilize you to apply your own leadership in business and in life. Here's your host, Ann Miner.
Hello and welcome. It's Ann Miner, your host of Encouraging Leadership, conversations to mobilize today's women leaders. I'm glad you've joined us. We have a very special guest today, Melinda Cooper. Melinda is the owner of Living the Dream and Living the Dream magazine. She's a visibility consultant working to help others be seen in the right place, utilizing the right platforms for their businesses. She's a firm believer that if you are not being seen, then you are not doing business. Melinda, welcome.
Hi, Ann. Thank you for having me.
So glad you were available to talk with us today. Now, why don't you share with our listeners, why is your business called Living the Dream?
Ann, I really thank you for asking that question. So many people ask that, living the dream as if it's like almost a pie in the sky. And I think people have forgotten that, we start, all of us who are entrepreneurs, big corporations, even people who have jobs in big corporations, they're part of the wheel that's rolling. I think people forget that they are a part of something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. And them truly living up to what their goal, their dream, their original thought was, besides just, I need to pay the bills. They picked that job to pay the bills. They picked that business to go and follow, and gosh, I want to work for them. And then when they became entrepreneurs, they had a bigger dream inside themselves that so many just want to make a difference out there in the world. And what they don't realize is that they're already living it. They just haven't. It's kind of like being in the pool and they haven't reached the deep end yet. They're treading water in the shallow, and they need to go ahead and swim out to that deep end. And if you go down, be sure to bounce, lift your head up, and keep going. I used to teach swimming, and my children were both on junior Olympic swim teams, and I used to tell them, you're going to get tired, you're going to have a cramp, things are going to come up. I said, that's when you go ahead and you bounce back up, you lift your head correctly, because automatically you come to the top. And then you start swimming all over again. That is part of living the dream. Because you have to know what your original goal is, and then just swim and jump in and do whatever it takes for you to reach the deep end.
Okay, so we are all already living the dream. Is that what I take away from this?
Yeah, you really are. Most people don't realize that. They haven't thought that yet. Because the dream that they're in, it's that dream, that moment. But if you're doing it and you want to build it, then you keep paddling to the deep end, to the bigger portion of the pool, where there's bigger risk, where there's bigger, everything. You can do so much more in the deep end than you can in the shallow. You can jump in, you can get in and out, you can dive in, you can go deep, you can stay up on the top, you can hang on the side. You can't do all of that at the shallow end.
Well, exactly. So that sounds to me like you're recommending that people lead themselves towards their dream. Would that be fair?
And that's actually already on it. You're on target. They are already leading themselves to their dream. You already knew that you wanted to be heard. So now you're just making it towards the deep end so that more people can hear you.
Interesting. One of the challenges that we have observed with women, whether they're entrepreneurs or whether they're working in a corporation, is their unwillingness to speak up or to speak out, that they hold their tongues or they keep quiet, not wanting to draw attention to themselves. And from your philosophy, you're talking about having to be seen in order to be doing business. You need to be seen in order to be eligible for advancement, whether you are advancing yourself as an entrepreneur or whether you're endeavoring to advance within a corporation.
You're absolutely right. You know, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of great women leaders in my life, and you are among one of them. And I believe that in reality, for those who want to lead, for those who feel the calling inside their stomach that says, oh, I could show them that. For those who say, you know, I would really like that bigger raise. For those who say, man, I want that position. Doesn't matter what corner of their pizza pie that they want. The reality is that unless you clearly state that, unless you take that bold step forward, how does anybody know? And more importantly, as a woman, how do you know for yourself?
Well, let's unbundle that for a sec. Let's talk about how do you know for yourself. So what is the course of action that you would recommend for people to be clear in the knowing of themselves?
You know, I it's interesting that you say, I just have a brand new client. Brand new. She is like a week old. And, you know, at the moment she's just a little bit on the fringes with me because I challenged her to flat make a list of what she does want in her life. And she could tell me everything she doesn't want right off the bat.
Oh, yes, I understand that too.
Okay. And I said, no, what I'm looking for is what you do want. I said, because as long as what we focus on what we don't want, we're really claiming the negative. So are we ready to allow ourselves to claim the positive? Because what we do want may be completely different than what we don't want.
Oh, well, I would think I hear what you're saying. It's not the opposite of what we don't want necessarily. It's something completely different.
That's right.
And so that is certainly important, to have clarity around what is your objective, what are your goals, what's your vision for yourself.
That's right. That's right. Because the reality check comes in, the reality check comes in was, can we actually allow ourselves to, here comes a big word that many people go, oh yeah, but I'd hate to tell you how many people falter at this. How many women allow themselves to believe that they are worthy to have what they do want in their life?
Right. So the question kind of begs the answer, and we know the answer is that there is a shortage of women who believe that they are worthy. So how do we overcome that hurdle?
You know, I spent a lot of years doing that. That is not just something I preach. It's something that I actually teach. Because I believe that I too had to come over that. Because, you know, we really can't give what we don't have, right? Mm-hmm. So if we don't feel like we are worthy, then we really don't allow ourselves to have that special job, that great position, to speak up and be heard, or to want something different. So when you look at that, the answer becomes, I always tell people immediately, as quick as you can, every morning, jump in and tell yourself what's the best part you like about you. If you could start with 5 minutes a day and make a list of something different One day you may say, oh, I love my hair. The next day I love my nails. The next day I love whatever. But 5 minutes of that, of doing something completely different, what you like about yourself, you'd be surprised what that brings into your life. Just that little bit.
Well, I'm sure that many of us have seen that video of maybe she's 3 years old, the blonde ringlets in front of the bathroom mirror, saying about all the things that she likes about herself, all the things that are awesome about her life and her world. And every one of us, I imagine, is in awe of that little girl, in admiration, and thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I was like that.
Exactly. And why aren't you?
Well, that's a rhetorical question, because I am on your page as far as being clear at the beginning of each day what value I bring to the world.
That's right,
And
because that's what you, yeah, it's tremendous, isn't it, Anne? You know that feeling.
Well, I think that, your self-talk, and it may seem like we've had endless conversation about self-talk, but I even find in conversation, so I'm not necessarily watching people in a private moment where they're speaking to themselves, because I know we all do that. They will say something about themselves in a conversation that's not positive. And I have taken up the habit of stopping the conversation and saying, no negative self-talk allowed. You need to replace that, whatever that statement was. And it isn't just women. Men do it too, but not nearly as much. Not nearly as much. It's things like saying, I'm so stupid, or, I'm so misinformed, or I'm so careless, or they're not necessarily things about your body. They're about how you apply yourself in the workplace. And speaking out loud what you don't do well, as opposed to, we would substitute, I'm becoming more organized, or today I have achieved greater organization than yesterday.
Exactly.
As opposed to saying I'm so disorganized.
Well, and that's absolutely right. One of the things that many people tell me is they go, Melinda, I just can't get that. And I smile and I say, well, then why are you here? And they look at me. And I say, well, the reason I want to know is because if you're saying and you're already declaring the limitation of I cannot, then I want to know why you come here. Are you ready for me to tell you that you can? Okay, now you can. Save the money. And they look at me. I said, because you have to know you can. I can't convince you.
Right.
And I think that, you're right. You're absolutely right. Self-talk is one of our biggest detriments. I don't think that I will ever forget, for little girls especially, one of the things that had never popped into my mind, but I've been in a women's conference lately, and one of the things that the very first things they bring out is when a little boy, we're talking about a little boy, he doesn't have full faculty of his mind, he barely has his hormones, right? And all of a sudden, a little girl comes up and she just thinks he is so the bomb. Oh my God, he is the one, right? Oh my God, right? And so out of a fluke, out of a dare, out of a curiosity, whatever, he gives her a hug and a kiss. To the little boy, it was a dare, it felt weird, it tasted funny, it did whatever it did, right? To the little girl, she hung the moon on that. She hung the moon that somebody just made her feel all of that. All the excitement, the explosion, everything within her. Now, I hate to bust a bubble. And believe me, I have felt so much of those excitements in my years. But I will tell everyone immediately, you allowed that to happen. In your life, you were ready. Not that they were ready, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but definitely you were ready. They didn't own it. You owned it. It was yours. You owned it. It was your body. It was your emotions. It was your excitement. It was your thrill. It was your idea that this is the bomb. This is the one. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
And women cling to that. Many spend the rest of their lives looking for that same exact one, because I know somebody who dates a certain man with a certain name, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's any good for her or not. He's got the right name. What is that?
Well, that's a throwback, isn't it?
That's a throwback.
So we're starting with the foundation of self-worthiness.
That's right.
And then once we have our sense of self-worth in place, doesn't it become a whole lot easier to stand up and speak up?
I believe so. I believe so because once we are strong enough to accept that we are worthy, once we allow ourselves to believe that we are worthy, then we would be surprised of the world that comes to us, because it's opening a whole new door.
Well, exactly. So then you need to be prepared. You know, I was at a conference over the last few days, and I was so surprised, and I continue to be surprised when this happens, even though intellectually I know that this is a problem we're trying to overcome. When I was speaking with one of the other senior women at this conference, who was sharing with me an idea that she has that might enhance the member experience at this conference. And we had just come out of a conversation about that very topic. And why did she not bring it up when we were all together? It's great that she's told me now. I'm not the one that will be able to authorize or really even influence, although I can endeavor to do that. It would have been so much more productive to bring it up in the meeting. So when I asked her, why did you not bring that up when we were all together? And so her reasons sounded like this. Number one, I'm not really sure if anyone wants to hear from me. Number two, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And number three, well, refer to number one and number two.
Absolutely. You know, we are trained as women to be the peacekeepers. We're trained that we're the ones who make the household, you know, you've heard the saying, if mama ain't happy, the world isn't happy. You've heard the expression, if, she's not happy, no one's happy. So, Anne, when you think about that and you really consider that, the bigger question is if you really asked her, you should have considered doing it a different way and saying, by chance, did you have any doubt that your idea would work?
Okay.
Because, I have done this, and I have. When I am absolutely convinced that something is, wow, we jump in the deep end. Now, sometimes my husband has to get a raffling hook and bring me back out. But,
Yes.
It's like, hey, Melinda, let's come back in a little bit. But the reality is that I believed in my issue, whatever that specific, idea was. But when we stand around other women and we hear them, and I'm going to say it this way because I know it exists, we hear them putting on their frontal facade.
Their frontal facade?
Yes. You have seen them.
Tell me more about that.
They arrive. They look impeccable. They're the women that don't even have a hair out of place. They look so magnificent. Everything from top of the head all the way down to their painted toenails is absolutely in spit spot. So all of a sudden they speak. And in reality, they're standing there going, well, I know that this is ba 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 ba. And they're saying it. I watched a movie, I'm trying to think. It's called The Contender. It's about a woman trying to run for a vice president. And the man says, I'm going to say this, and this is what it's going to be. And she goes, why? And he says, because I have the microphone. And I'll be speaking loud enough that people can hear me. Think about that. I had to replay that back and forth a couple of times. He had a microphone, and he said it loud enough that people could hear him. And that's what would make it so.
Right, that he could speak it into existence.
That's right. So how many of the very strong, solid women speak it into existence to where a woman that has just a little doubt, a woman that's still muddling through, let me think it through in my mind, all of a sudden they're going, ooh, no, I'm not ready for that to be into existence yet. I'm not ready to have that microphone and speak it out loud. Let me wait and get somebody, in this case it was you, Anne, that I believe has that influence. Somebody that will pick up that microphone and she will stand there and say it loud enough that she will put it into existence for me.
So interesting when we look at it that way, huh?
Most people, I got to tell you, most people don't look at it that way. But when I turn around and I look at women, I'm like, okay, why is she saying it? Because this girl says, oh, I had a great idea. I gave it to her. I said, why? And she looks at me, she goes, what? I said, why did you give it to her? Well, she'll stand up and say it. I said, why? Is it a good idea? Well, yeah. Well, then why isn't it a good idea for you to say it?
Really interesting. So why is it not a good idea for her to say it? It has to do with her perceptions of herself.
That's right.
And others.
You know,
now, sometimes I will agree. We have ideas that can be better championed by someone else who has, power of position, for example. Maybe it needs to come from the CEO or the president. However, in the general case, I don't think that applies. I think you're right, that we often see women take the easy road, give it to someone else, rather than step into the courage. Have courage. Speak up. What is the absolute worst that can happen?
Well, I can tell you, I was raised with 7 brothers. So,
wow.
So I have learned that the worst that can happen is that I can get knocked down on my behind. That's for me. That was pretty bad at that time, right? When you're a girl and you're trying to hold your own and you are getting snockered by the brother who happened to oppose your opinion, that was the worst. I discovered that I could swipe my behind off. I would get up and I would get pissed off and I'd go running after that brother and say, right? I became a fan. I'm a boxing fan I'll admit that. I have a lot of good male traits. I could actually be a good guy friend if I needed to be, because I'm really into sports and the boxing and all that stuff. So I discovered that my next statements out of my mouth was, I haven't heard the bell ring. The bell has not gone ding. Come on, we're still at it. And so I learned that even if I got knocked down, I had to get back up.
Right.
Or I was not going to be heard.
Exactly.
And that's where if I could teach women something, I would say guaranteed, you're going to be knocked. You may not be knocked all the way down to the ground, but you may be knocked, sit back down in your chair. You may be knocked, go outside to the room. We're not ready for that conversation. We're not on that subject right now. That's another time. We'll run out of time. Whatever. They're going to be knocked. So you just dust your hands together. You get your little notepad and say, this is what I'm saying. And you either get back in the race and get back in there and say, we're going to do this. Or truly, you're the reason you're not being heard.
That is very powerful, Melinda. Now, we're going to dust ourselves off and get back in the ring. Maybe we need to present our idea in a slightly different manner. Mm-hmm. Or perhaps what we need to do is accept that it's not the right moment and get our idea on the agenda for the next meeting.
That's right.
Right then and there. Okay.
That's right.
Yep. Good point.
I used to be, I was in a high executive area. I worked in a very large corporation, very large. And, all the time, I will tell you the truth, that not all of my wonderful ideas were ready to be heard when I first spouted them. In earnest, it wasn't always, this is a great deal. So the minute they would say, Melinda, now's not the time, I would say, okay, when is the time? I want to put that on my calendar. So can you tell me when is the right time for this? And they would be shocked. They go, what? And I said, well, you say now is not the time. Do you want me to put that on the calendar? What day is good for me to bring this back up again? Because it's not going away.
Right.
And I got to tell you, there were many times, I'm sure, just by the looks that I received, they were like, you're putting me on the spot. And my first answer was, you just knocked me down. You better believe I'm going to put you on the spot. Make the commitment to yourself. As women, we have to make that commitment that we are willing and ready to be heard.
Exactly, and what a great, powerful statement to use as a wrap-up for our program today. Just say that one more time, Melinda.
As women, we have to make the commitment to ourselves that we are willing and ready to be heard.
Wonderful. Listeners, today we have had as our guest speaker, Melinda Cooper. And if you would like to have more information or connect with Melinda, you can visit her website, which is livingthedreammagazine.com. And I'll spell that for you. No spaces between the words. livingthedreammagazine.com. livingthedreammagazine.com. And I am sure that you will learn more about what Melinda has to offer and that you'll want to check out her magazine. So, listeners, I leave you with that to follow up on your own, and I do hope that you will join us next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more conversations to mobilize today's women leaders.
Thank you for listening to Encouraging Leadership. To learn more about our host, Ann Miner, and the Acacia Institute, please visit acaciainstitute.com. Join us next week at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, for more Encouraging Leadership. In the meantime, be courageous.